Hello. Yeah, now we're gonna talk about Brewster. Yeah, a lot of people probably have him and probably have seen how he works and know how he works. So we are straight to my opinion about Brewster. Yeah, because I don't have Brewster, so I haven't tested him yet or even tried him. But based on his performance that I've seen on so many of my clubmates, like uh, he is a really good PvE esper, and no matter what other YouTubers say, like he is not to be compared with Gaius or Ophelia or Lewis or any other DPS esper. The reason is because it has the same reasoning as why you never want to compare your haul with Drew or Tang Yun or Freddy or any other DPS esper because of how they works. They have a totally different playstyle compared to other DPS. Like for example, for Hall, like he gonna follow up every time his teammates attacks the enemy. So the way you play with him, like he's not gonna be the best DPS to deal like the highest damage dealer as per in your team, but he will be for sure become a really great addition because if you bring so many support, like you probably need so many support, like for example, like Infinite Tower or Temporal Tower, where sometimes you're gonna need to bring a lot of controller or support to be able to survive or control the enemy team, and you don't have that many choice in bringing which DPS esper that you want to bring. So they excel in that kind of situation. The reason is because even though they are alone as a single DPS, like um, they will keep dealing damage as long as all of the other supports are dealing damage to the enemy. So he will keep on attacking them together with the support and controller in your team. Although for the best result, like you will want him, like for example, Hall, you want him to be as the second DPS in your team. Like probably you have Tang Yin in your team, and you have the secondary DPS Hall in your team, and Tangyun you will deal the most damage, while Hall will be the supportive esper. While the other support espers deal damage to the enemy, he will contribute into the damage.
If you really want help,
So, for example, like if you bring like Suhua, where she spends most of her times buffing her allies, then Hall will not follow up the attack because while buffing allies, like they literally doesn't hit
if
anyone.
you really
Like
want,
Suhua, for example, she doesn't hit anyone, so Hall will not follow up on that. But while you are playing with Hall, like the faster your teammates moves, the faster he will keep on following up the attack. So that's why when you are playing Hall, like you will follow up like a lot of fast teammates, like probably Li Guang or Sender or those espers that moves a lot but deals uh, very little damage, like probably Suhua or uh, Jin or Helena. Or Benny also a really good example. Like while Benny moves fast for her to be able to keep shielding her allies, like she can keep calling Hall to deal damage for her. And that's where they shine. So it's the same as Brewster. Like Brewster is legendary version of Hall. So the way you need to think about Brewster is totally different compared to the other DPS espers. Like he won't be the one dealing like the highest damage in his team, but his playstyle is a lot similar to Hall in this case, that he can cover up the the role of DPS for the other support teammates. So while you bring a lot of support teammates that doesn't deal much damage, like he will be the damage dealer for them. Like for example, like the newest addition here, Ife. Like Ife, while she is stacking poison on the enemy, like she herself doesn't deal much damage, and her damage mostly come from the poison, so she needs to wait for the enemy to move in their turn for the poison to explode. So while she keeps on stacking the poison, like hitting the enemy, like Brewster's gonna be the one dealing damage for her. He will be the one hitting the enemy while Ife is taking the poison. So that's the purpose of Brewster. He's not the one to deal like a really high burst damage like Ophelia or Gaius or Lewis or any other DPS esper. he is the one to support his teammates to deal damage while they are doing something else. So that's it. Let's go to Brewster's skills. His first skill attacks one enemy, deals 100% attack damage, 100% chance of inflicting defense down. So this is a really high chance for inflicting a defense down. But the thing is, the thing that a lot of people make mistake here is that they think that Brewster requires accuracy because they want him to keep putting the defense down on the enemy. That's where you already built Brewster wrong. The reason is because you don't want him to be the one debuffing the enemies. That's somebody else's role. So if you want defense down, bring Gabriel into your team. Bring Lin Xiao to your team, or bring somebody else who can inflict a defense down in, and that's their purpose in your team configuration. So Brewster himself having the defense down, chance to inflict defense down here is just a bonus. If you keep on hitting the same target over and over again, having 100% accuracy means that, like for example, like you can follow up 5 attacks with reload attack here if he has like 5 stacks of reload attack. So if he hits the same enemy 5 times, you don't need 100% chance like 80 accuracy or 100 accuracy to deal defense down every single time. You don't need to do that. Among those 5 hits, like just one, preferably at the start, you want to inflict the defense down, and the rest you don't really care whether he inflicts another defense down or not because they don't stack. So he doesn't really need that accuracy. But if you have if your relic have a little bit accuracy here and there, like probably 20% total accuracy or something, it's okay. It's enough. It's not something to aim for, but it's a bonus if you have some accuracy in your stats that you have a really good relic, but there is an accuracy substat in it. Brewster can use that compared to other esper, like probably Lewis. Like he doesn't put any debuff on the enemy, although he has this upon crit against 30% up AP, but this one depends on his critical, not on his accuracy chance on gaining the AP. So for a case like Lewis, like you really don't want accuracy substats in his relic, so you want to avoid accuracy as much as possible when giving a relic to Lewis. But for Brewster's case, like a little bit accuracy is okay, but it's not something to aim for. You don't aim for 80% accuracy or even 100% accuracy for Brewster. So this is just a bonus. Think about it as a bonus. This is not something to look out for, but as a bonus. And the second skill is attacks one enemy, does 180% attack damage, inflicts stun for 1 turn upon successful infliction, gets 2 reload attack stacks, otherwise increases damage by 30%. Here is another thing, the explanation here that you guys need to know about. Whether he can stun the enemy or whether he failed to stun his enemy doesn't really make that much difference, although it still makes a difference. Like you want to stun the enemy so they lose another turn, and then you also gain 2 reload attacks to follow up another attack, so that 2 reload attack will translate into a 100% times 2, which is 200% attack damage. So that means this skill gonna deal in total at 380% attack damage. So but the 30% increase in damage is not something to avoid to either, because this is the total damage increase by 30%. So after they calculate everything, including his attack, his multiplication towards attack, from attack to damage, and then reduced by the enemy defense and damage mitigation, then the final damage that he will deal after calculating also the critical rate and critical damage will be increased by 30% afterwards. And that's where this damage comes in. So the explanation, if you don't believe me, like there is another explanation that is different here. So if the attack damage is the one that is increased, then the explanation should be like this. Attacks all enemies 2 times its hit deals 50% attack damage. The first hit freezes them for 1 turn. If an enemy is frozen, the second hit damage is increased by 50% attack. So they specifically mention that this is the damage is increased by 50% attack. So that means this attack damage will be 100% attack damage. And then afterwards, only after then, they will multiply it with the damage multiplication that will result in the final damage, and then calculate with critical rate and critical damage, and that's the final damage that he will deal to the enemy. So this number will be calculated first. But for Brewster's case and many other espers with the same explanation, this is the total final damage that it's increased, not by the attack. So after calculating the damage mitigation and everything, and the multiplication of attack, and then only afterwards the damage will be increased by 30%. So this is not as low as you guys think of it. So 30% might be actually like a really nice number, but we just don't know. I still don't know the formula that Dislyte use when translating the attack into a damage, and then calculating the damage mitigation from the enemy. And then the good thing about this skill is that the cooldown is only 3 turns, so this is quite fast after you upgrade it with a Billy Mode. And then the third skill, coming to the third skill, before that, the Brewster is really good in PvE content. It's already shown here in his captain ability, which is specifically mentioned to PvE content. A lot of the times, if you want to know what kind of esper is good in which content, you can actually see from their captain ability. So if their captain ability goes for PvE content, then they are good in PvE content. If their captain ability goes towards a holo battle, then they are good in holo battle. And if their captain ability is in general, then they can be used in both PvE and PvP content. Like their skills, it's not only the captain ability. Like their skills are reflected in their captain ability. So you can see that if Brewster have the captain ability of PvE content, you don't expect him to shine in PvP content, and there is a good reason for that. I will explain it to you with the third skill of Brewster. The reason is because the third skill, on how this third skill works, is that it grants critical rate up to all allies for 3 turns. It's a bonus. It's not something to die for, but it's a nice bonus. Attacks one enemy deals 270% attack damage, inflicts buff blocker for 2 turns. Again, this is just a bonus. You don't want to dying to increase that accuracy to 80% just to give this buff blocker to your target. Upon a crit, erases the enemy's AP. Again, this is also, I think, depends on the accuracy of Brewster. But if you don't erase the enemy's AP, then it's not the end of the world either. And then gains 5 real attack stacks. A lot of people think that, because Brewster's revolves around doing a follow-up attack using his reload attack, so a lot of people think that you need to have reload attack to be up the buff at all times. Like every single time, he should be able to follow up every single one of his teammates' attack. But that's where everybody is wrong, because that's not how you think about him. Like, he is not Hall. He is a legendary version of Hall for sure, but he is not Hall. So he doesn't need to follow up every single one of his teammates' attack. Only 5 of them, and that's enough. You need to wait for him for a cooldown until his next time to do the third skill again. So the way you think about his skill is that this thing deals 270% attack damage in the first turn, kablam, 270%, and then he will gain 5 reload attack. If on the next turn, all 4 of his teammates moves, and then another one, like probably Dahlia, moved twice, and they used up all 5 stacks of his reload attack buffs, that means within those 2 turns, he already dealt 270% attack damage plus 5 times 100% attack. So in a sense, the total damage that his third skill deals is 770% attack damage. That's how you think when you are looking at this skill. Not to think about him doing reload attack every single time, every single turn, but think about this skill as dealing 770% attack damage spread within 2 turns. That's how you think about when you are playing Brewster. Or whether it's spread within 2 turns or 3 turns, but it's definitely going to be below 4 turns. So within those 4 turns, you want the 5 reload stack to be used up. Otherwise, you are wasting the reload stack. Like for example, if cooldown 4 turns is up and you still have like probably 1 or 2 stacks of reload attack, then you didn't maximize his third skill damage. But if you use up his 5 reload attack within those 4 turns, whether it used up on the second turn or the third turn or the fourth turn, it doesn't matter. His total damage coming from his third skill alone is 717% attack damage, and that's the fact. So that's how you think about him. So a lot of people think that he needs speed, which is also wrong. Is because people wants him to move first before his other teammates moves. The reasoning is because he wants to have his reload attack buffs before his teammates moves. But the thing is, whether your teammates use their third skill or second skill or first skill, it doesn't matter. He will always counter with his first skill. So in the first turn of the fight, like the battle, a lot of people gives him speed to be able to move before the other DPS, and then he moves. But that's just a waste of attack substats. You want to have Brewster to deal as much damage as possible with as little speed as possible. Preferably, Brewster only doesn't even need speed at all. The reason is because every time he attacks, he gains AP per stack. AP increase per stack, maximum 6 stacks. So the first hit he deals will give him 36% AP. And after he deals like 5 reload attack, no matter how slow his speed is, it will be his turn next. So he doesn't need speed at all to be able to move. Although afterwards, when his reload attack is up and used already, and then he used the second skill and then first skill, and then wait for the 4 turns cooldown for his third skill, he will move very, very slow if you don't have speed at all with him. But the thing is, while he has the reload attack stacks buffs, he doesn't need speed at all, because no matter how many speeds you have, the AP increase will always be the same, because the AP bar, like you can consider AP bar as 0 to 100% from left to right. So no matter how slow his speed is, increasing his AP by 36% in the first hit that he follows up means that he goes from 0% in the AP bar to 36% in the AP bar. That's already 1/3 of the way towards his turn again. So he doesn't need speed at all. But the thing is, like, a lot of people are impatient about him, like they want him to deal as much damage as possible right from the beginning, but that's where he is not suitable for PvP esper. The reason is because the reason why he shines in PvE content is because if you build him full attack damage and he has 0 speed, that means he will be the last person to move in your team. It's okay, because on the second turn, after every single one of your esper moves, and then it's gonna be Brewster's turn to use his third skill, on the second turn, it will be another of his teammates' moves. And on the second turn onwards, he will have his reload attack stacks, and he will deal insane amount of damage from the second turn onward. So on his first turn, imagine him as being like, docile, or maybe on hibernation. Like, think of him as like a standard esper, like probably a steward or something, like or maybe a like any other DPS esper, like just dealing a normal third skill 270% attack damage. Like, probably imagine him as Lin. Where's Lin? Yeah, like Lin. Like, imagine Brewster as Lin, deal 280% attack damage, kablam, 1 hit, and that's it, stops. Imagine Brewster on his first turn as that, deals 270% attack damage, and moves as the last esper to move with 0 speed. Don't count the reload attack. And only after he moves, then on the second turn, he will use up, he will shine, he will go berserk with his reload attack buffs. And that's where he doesn't really shine. That's where the game developer also knows that he doesn't really shine in PvP, where the first turn really decides the outcome of the battle. And that's where he shines mostly in the PvE content. The reason is because from the second turn onwards, he will get his speed from his AP stacks, from the reload attack, from his AP increase. So even though he has 0 speed, compared to like Ophelia with 0 speed, if you build a Ophelia with 0 speed, he will move much faster than Ophelia from the second turn onwards. So the longer the battle goes, the stronger Brewster's gonna be, and the more damage he's gonna deal in a longer battle. So that's why he shines a lot when dealing with PvE content. When you like fight for 10 or 15 minutes per fight. So that's the reason why a lot of people are giving him speed and accuracy, and that's what I think is wrong with him. And that's why in his showcase, like a lot of showcase like YouTubers that showcase his skills and damage, doesn't really showcase his full potential. The reason is because they spread the substats from his damage towards his speed and accuracy, and that's why he deals so little damage compared to the other DPS. Even though if he has full damage, like in his relic, like he still won't outshine Ophelia or probably Gaius especially. Like he won't outshine a real DPS esper. But where he shines is when the fight gets longer. When the fight gets longer, he will get stronger the longer the fight goes. And also, the more you have like espers like Ife or Pritzker or Longyan or other controller esper in your team, the ones that doesn't deal damage, he will be the damage dealer for them. Every time they move, Brewster's gonna help them deal the damage for them. So in a sense, like the pros of him is that he will kill the enemy not in his turn, preferably, but on his teammates' turns. So for example, like let's see Ophelia. Like she used her third skill and cooldown 3 turns. So if she doesn't kill her target using the third skill, and then probably the second skill afterwards, like if she doesn't kill her target, so you need to wait for 3 turns until she deals her damage again. Meanwhile, you will only like using the first skill to deal damage, and only after 3 turns, then she will shine again. So if you turn this as a graph for like a DPS meter, so the first turn she will deal like insane amount of damage, like the power will spike, and then it will gradually slows down. The DPS will gradually slows down until the third turns again. Like after 3 turns, then the damage will spike again, like really high. That's how every single espers mostly. Like for example, like for Gaius also the same. Like he will do the God King Judgment on the first turn, and then afterwards you're gonna have a cooldown period, where he doesn't deal as much damage as his second skill until he is able to use his second skill again. But it's not the same case for Brewster. Like Brewster's gonna deal a lot of damage on his first turn, but then afterwards, while the skill is on cooldown, he will deal consistent damage towards his enemies, and that's where he shines the most in PvE content, where you bring a lot of controller, a lot of support, because his damage will be constant. He doesn't do that burst kind of damage, but he spread his damage between his cooldown period. So he is also a really good esper to use in a Sentinel hunt, the Darkstar Lord, where you need to use a lot of debuffer to keep putting debuffs on the boss. Like while you keep on focusing putting all your debuffs, like Brewster's gonna be the damage dealer for you in that sense. So that's my opinion about Brewster. Although I really love him, like I do wish I have him, you know, like I chose Ife over Brewster because I know Poison will shine. I already have a separate video for Ife. Ife will shine in the much harder content later on. I also have the explanation for that if you guys want to watch. And Brewster also have a different purpose in PvE content. But since I'm a free-to-play player and I kind of want to save my SSM, so I chose Ife over Brewster, and that's kind of my my gamble here, because I gamble in the future that the developer gonna give us more harder and harder content, and Ife is gonna shine even more. But Brewster is not to be underestimated either, because he is like the second captain to be used that increase 40% attack aside from Zora. So if you have both Zora and Brewster, then your damage gonna increased by a lot in either Dislyte lane or Sentinel Hunt. But if you already, like me, already have Sora and you want to, like, being a free-to-play player and everything, like, I can use Sora, and probably for other captain, I can still use Lin or probably Louis or something. Probably not the best, but I'm curious about the new two espers that's gonna come out. The triplets and the hacker. So that's another thing to think about, because I suspect Intisar gonna be really really good, contrary to what other peoples are voting for. Like it's visual aspect. Yes, the triplet really looks interesting, but for me, like in every single games, like mostly when you see someone who is a hacker in their profession, they mostly probably like gonna be really really good at controlling the enemy team. So yeah, I expect Intisar gonna be like a fighter controller. That's what I'm looking for. For the three players, I don't have any clue like how they gonna perform. But Intisar, that's my guess. Yeah, so I'm betting my SSM towards Intisar later on. But that's just me. So whether you need Brewster or not, it all comes back to you. Like if you really need that push towards the Sentinel Hunt score, and also for Temporal Tower and Infinite Tower and Cube, also other PvE content. Like I suspect like Brewster gonna be really really good later on. It's Shed Mother. Yes, that's my guess, because Shed Mother gonna be like a really really important PvE content that everybody gonna do in their end game content. So Brewster being like a really really good PvE esper damage dealer at that, he will be very relevant later on in Shade Mother. That's my guess. So yeah, it comes back to you again, whether you need him or not. It's up to you. Whether you want other Esper or like wait for the new ones. Yep, feel free to enjoy your game. that's my thought about Brewster. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you get something, like learn something from this. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.